All right, welcome back. We're going to continue on our array of games. This is going to be version 0.2. So 0.2. Our goal here is um, when we go back to play.c, we had hard coded these names here, which is fine, right? This was a good skill to know. But when you think about it, each game that we will eventually put in a separate file, each game should be in charge of providing its title. In other words, instead of us getting it here, we should have each game provide the title. So what we're going to do in this version 2 is add the framework where we'll have basically 3 games inside this project. So with that in mind, let me go over here. Notice we already have a number of files, and as I said, projects I work on every day have thousands of files. In fact, tens of thousands of files. We're talking about big projects. You know, the typical project may have thousands of files, um, but my point is, don't worry about the file. The files provide a great way to have modular code to partition it. So we're going to add some new files here. First we're going to add is the ASCII char game, because right, we're going to have a guess the character. Let me make this a little wider so you can see that. So the ASCII char game .h, and I'll go ahead and put an ASCII char game .c. Right, one's the interface, one's the implementation. Let's go ahead and put in the ANSI C game .h interface for that, and we'll do the ANSI C game .c, the implementation, and the one that we all know is tic-tac-toe .h, the interface for that, and then a tic-tac-toe.c implementation. So even our project, right, we got a number of files here, which makes it very much more like real life. A lot of times the textbook, when you look at textbooks, they'll put everything in maybe one file to show you a concept. And as I said, in real life, you have lots of files. So I'm going to go to a header file we already have. For example, the play.h, we already have that. And I'm going to copy it, right, because this will be like my template that I can use. And I'll go to my ANSI C game.h and paste that here. Of course, call this the ANSI C, so the American, actually I won't, yeah, the American National Standards Institute, so ANSI C game. So the ANSI C game. Keyboard's messing up here. And I'll just call this ANSI C _H and copy and paste it right here. Now, when you think about what is it we want to ask of this, and there'll be, well, one thing we want it to be able to play this game. And we're going to use the convention that a lot of developers use when they're developing code, is to put a prefix of the file, and then the second part of the name is the actual, what it will do, the action. So think of this as the, if you want to call it the object. This is kind of like object-oriented programming, which you'll cover later in your coding career, talk about object-oriented programming. But this is like an object. This is like a method or an action that it can do. So we can play the game, and actually we said when we play it, we want to return an integer to return the score. right? So return the score, and 0 is no score, i.e. lost the game. Otherwise, you can return a score for that. So that's how we'll play it. And we'll also put a function here, and this one's going to return a character pointer, and this will call ANSI C get title, and that'll return the title of the game. Now remember, this is the interface. We don't worry about the implementation here. We're just saying, what do we want this to do? Well, we want to be able to get the title, and we want to be able to play this game. And for right now, in this version of our code, that's what we want to do. I click on run just to make sure no typos, right? We're good, no typos. So with that, I'll go ahead and grab this and say, well, this is what really the same thing I want the other games to do as well. So I'll go over to my ANSI game, or pardon me, my ASCII. So the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. So American Standard Code for Information Interchange, ASCII char game. And then this will be the ASCII char _H. And again, what I do, because it's so easy to make a typo, just copy and paste. And actually, I've seen a lot of students, they won't copy and paste, and they'll have just a character off, and they don't recognize it, and that causes problems. And using our same convention, we'll say, well, we want to get the title for this, but in this case, it's going to be called the ASCII _char _game. And I guess I'll just call it ASCII _char get title, and here ASCII char play. Okay, so I got this. So ASCII, got my header file, got these two functions we'll need to. Again, I'll click on run just to make sure I don't have any typos, right? Maybe if I left out the semicolon when I click on run, I would get a actually, you know what? I just realized we're not including these files anywhere. So since we're not including them, it's not even reading them at this point. So actually, by running the compiler, I wasn't checking this code after all, because until somebody includes this header file, it's not checked. Anyway, let's go ahead and copy this entire buffer, and we'll do one more, the tic-tac-toe. So go to the tic-tac-toe.c, paste this in, call it tic-tac-toe, tic-tac-toe, and here we'll call it tic-tac-toe. Again, copy that, paste it here, and we'll call this the tic-tac-toe get title, and here the tic-tac-toe play. The tic-tac-toe play. Alright, so that's our interface. Now we haven't done anything in the implementation yet. We'll come back to that. But before we do, let's go to the play.c. And when we think about it, it's play.c that is going to decide which game we play. So what we're going to do then is say, let's include the ANSI. Let's see, the first one, I'll put them in order that we had them on our menu. We're going to have the ASCII char game.h. And as I'm looking right here, I see I actually have a spelling error. You may have caught that earlier in the video. Here I've got two I's, and here I've got one I. if you find you've made that mistake, you can come over here and notice there is a rename. So I'll just click on rename and put the additional I there. Press enter. Right, so not a problem. Okay, so here we have the ASCII char game. I'll just copy this and paste right here. We have the ANSI C game, and I'll do one more copy and paste. We have tic-tac-toe. So tic-tac-toe, and looking at it, now when I click on run, if I have any typos, it would find them, because now we're including these header files. Right, so now they are important. All right, well, the thing is, we had these names that were coded here, but now what we want to do is actually ask each, we want to ask each system, or ask the code to provide the names. Let's think about that. So what we want to do, instead of hard coding the name here, we actually want to be able to ask each system, each game, to provide its name. So to make that a little more clear, let's go to we'll start here with the ASCII character name.h, and I'm going to grab these two functions. Right, I copied these two functions, the ASCII character play and the ASCII character get title. Copy those into my buffer. Go to the implementation, and here for the ANSI char game.c, which is implementation, I'll go ahead and include standard io.h, and I'll include our header file, the ASCII char game.h, and then I'll paste these functions, and I'll go ahead and remove the semicolon, go ahead and patch in the open and close, and for right now, just as a placeholder, I'll say return 0. Right, we lost the game. Now when it comes time to get the title, all I need to do is say return and give whatever title that is. Now remember, in our play.c, this is the title we used, guess the char game. But instead of putting it here, we're going to put it into our code here, and I'll actually paste that right there. And you could almost say, well, gosh, if we did it for this one, this same pattern, this same template, this could be true for the game dots, the ANSI C game. Right, I just have to call this the ANSI C. And of course, this would be the ANSI C game there. And the prefix, of course, will be the ANSI C, and here the ANSI. You're probably asking, why don't I use search and replace? One of the reasons I do it manually like this instead of search and replace, I've gotten feedback from students that watch the videos. When I do a search and replace and it just replaces everything, it sometimes is not as clear what gets changed. So I do it manually so you can clearly see, oh yeah, we've got the title, we got the play. But you can certainly use search and replace if you'd like. Now I'll go over to the play and get this second one, this title, and put it in the ANSI C game and just paste it right here. The only downside of cutting and pasting is you have to remember after you copy and paste, you want to make sure you do update the files as needed. So we got this one, and I'll do one more. Go to my tic-tac-toe, place that here. Again, this is our tic-tac-toe, and then here we've got the tic-tac-toe. Here we'll have tic-tac-toe, and finally here the tic-tac-toe. Now when I click on run, I hopefully don't have any compile errors, and if you do, well, let me just throw one in. Let's say I messed up right here. Right, we got all these files, but now when we compile our code, the good thing, it tells us the file name, so tic-tac-toe.c, tells us the line number, says go to line number 9, and then tells us the column 32. And in fact, here it even says it expected to have a semicolon there. And sure enough, we go to tic-tac-toe.c, line number 9, yep, there's a missing semicolon. So the error message are pretty good. Take advantage of those. And that's also why I only do a little bit at a time, so we can see everything. Alright, so far so good. When I come over to my play.c, remember we had hard coded here, and I want to remember this, so I'm going to do a /*, which we know is a multi-line comment, and a //. Now what I'll do different from this one, I'm going to have a static char pointer games, just like we did before. But I'm going to hard code this, I'll say 10 to 10. We'll have 10 games max. And actually I'm going to do something you will often see developers do. They will do the open and close parentheses, and the 0 says initialize all these to 0. All 10 entries. In other words, entries 0, 1 through 9, they should all be initialized to 0. Now it turns out, because this is a static inside of a file, these all get set to 0 anyway when it first loads in. But I find a lot of developers do this anyway, just to be very clear that this is, all these values will be initialized to 0. Now, remember that the thing is, we want to fill this up with the names of the different games. So when we do this display menu choice, here we assumed the array was already initialized, but instead now we're going to say initialize the array, and we'll say our games of 0 is equal to, we'll go to our ANSI, our ASCII char game, and call get title. Now notice I'm getting the green. It says incompatible integer to pointer conversion. Incompatible integer to pointer conversion. What could be going on there? Well, the C language by default, if it just sees a function without a header file, did you hear how I said that, without a header file? Then it assumes this will return an integer. And of course this is not an integer, this is a character pointer. So when we look at the error message again, it says incompatible integer to pointer. Notice this is an integer, this is a pointer. So what that means, we're missing our header files. Actually, I take that back. We do have the header file. I must have this named wrong. Let me go over to my .h file, copy it here, right? Copy the function, go over to play.c where we've got this and paste this in. There we go. So see, I had a typo and the compiler was telling me I do not recognize what that is. So good, you know, it was doing its job. Well, the compiler was running in the background. The editor noticed that we had that issue. And then we'll do the ANSI C game, or I guess it's just called ANSI C get title. And again, I probably should copy and paste, although we know if I get it wrong, like it looks like I got it wrong again, I'll just go over to my ANSI C game, copy this into my buffer, go to my play, paste it right there. Notice the error went away. And then finally games of 2. And then this one would be the tic-tac-toe get title. So we've actually got our titles, and I gave a spot to 10, although the truth is we only need 3 for this particular example, right? And you can compare and contrast the way we did it the first time versus here, and you could argue, well, why'd you give me 10? Because you're only using 3 right now. So I say, well, that's a good point. I could go ahead and set that to 3 for right now, going 0, 1, 2. Now when we come down here, when it comes time to display the values, the way we did it the first time is we knew the size of the array divided the number of entries. And that was indeed a good way to do it for this, because we knew we have this many entries, the compiler can calculate the size and so forth. So we could actually leave the code just like that and it would work fine, right? Because now it's going to say, well, I'm still calculating how many there are, right? There's going to be 3, and then I'm going to divide by the size. So this code actually works as it is. Now if this was anything other than 3, let's say I set it back to 10, we would have to change this logic, because this always assumes you're using all entries in the array, right? It's giving you the total array size. Where here we're only using the 3. So I'll just mention that in passing. But now the thing is, the title is up to the game itself. So now let's give us a run. See if we get the, uh-oh, got an error here. Right, we like errors, right? Because this is how we learn. Undefined reference to, oh, look, ASIC, ASIC. So I've got a spelling error right there. And you're like, well, wait a minute. I thought you copied that from the header file. Well, I did, but clearly, when I go to my header file, uh-oh, I misspelled it there. And of course, by misspelling it here, even though I spelled it, well, it looks like I even got it spelled wrong here. I would say one of the biggest issues I have from students, questions, is what you're seeing here, which is one of the reasons I wanted to demonstrate it. Notice how tricky it is, just these little spelling errors that you can make. Right, so here we've got this extra C, which got in the way, and here in our .h file, we really want this name that I have here. Actually, I guess we're focused on the get title, aren't we? I'll take that back. Go over here to the get title. Looks like I got them both misspelled. Isn't that funny? But again, for learning purposes, this is showing you whatever you have here should match what's in your header file. And in fact, I should have copied and pasted from the header file. Right. So now I've got that right. I'm going to go ahead and take care of play as well, since I see I've misspelled it for this one while I'm here. Go ahead and click on run. Oh, I'm not doing very good, am I? But you're probably saying, yeah, this is how when I'm building my code, I get stuff like this. But remember, you actually learn more from these errors. When things go right the first time, you don't get as much learning. So here on play, line 28, implicit declaration. Well, anytime you see implicit declaration, you know either you're missing a header file or you've got something misspelled wrong. And here it's this async get title. Well, we know I changed the name of it. So I need to update my play as well. So I go to my play.c, and sure enough, it's warning me, right, saying, hey, you did not do that right. All right, let's give it a run. Ah, finally. And of course, the big learning here is we're using the array a little bit different, and we're also asking each game to provide us the title. Other than that, it should still work. We should still be able to exit. Okay, your turn, or hopefully you've been following along, but before you go to the next video, certainly make sure you've got this much of your code working. I'm Norman McIntyre. Thanks as always for watching.